Hello everyone, today I'm back with another story about the single mother, Tiểu San. I hope you enjoy the video. Today, Tiểu San woke up earlier than usual. She stepped out into the yard, looking at the old patch of ground with a few eroded spots, cracked bricks lying around, and bushes that hadn't been trimmed for a long time. Thinking about fixing up the garden with Hoai made her feel oddly excited. Right at 7 o'clock, Hoai showed up at the door. As soon as he walked in, he smiled teasingly. "You woke up early, didn't you?" "I can tell just by looking." Tiểu San blushed, nodded, and quietly said, "I just tidied a bit. I'll clean more later." Hoai rolled up his sleeves with a gentle smile. "Then let's start now while it's still cool." Both of them began by cleaning the yard. They gathered dried leaves, picked up loose stones, and rearranged the pots along the sides. At one point, when Hoai bent down to pick up a dry branch, Tiểu San instinctively reached for it too. Her fingers accidentally brushed against his hand, making her pull back instantly. Hoai only looked at her and smiled, a smile that made her heart skip just a little. "Leave the heavy things to me. You just tell me where to put them," she murmured. "Don't overwork yourself." He replied gently, "I'm doing it for your home. It's nothing." A simple sentence, but enough to warm her ears. When they finished cleaning, Hoai sat down at the wooden table near the porch and spread out a large sheet of white paper. "All right, tell me what architect Tiểu San wants this garden to look like." Tiểu San laughed, but quickly grew serious as she described her ideas: a curved walkway made of red bricks, paper flowers, and moss roses planted along both sides, a small corner for growing organic vegetables for little Ivy, and a spacious area where the two of them could exercise or play in the afternoons. Hoai listened, nodding with clear excitement. "That's a cute idea. Let me figure out how to make it pretty and sturdy." They sat close together. Sometimes Hoai leaned in to look at the sketch, and Tiểu San unconsciously leaned in too. Their shoulders were only a slight turn away from touching, just enough to make both of them feel a little shy. When the sketch was done, they started on the main work. Tiểu San was in charge of laying the bricks. She carefully placed each one along the curved line they had planned. From behind, Hoai watched her, occasionally stepping in to help adjust the angles so the path would be straight and even. "You're really good at this," he said. Flustered, she whispered, "I'm just doing whatever." But Hoai shook his head firmly. "No, it's actually beautiful." His genuine compliment made her lower her face to hide her smile. Meanwhile, Hoai was working on leveling and packing the stone. He poured small buckets of gravel evenly across the path, then compressed them firmly. Sunlight shone on his strong arms, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. Seeing how hard he was working, Tiểu San walked over quickly. "Take a break, let me help," Hoai teased. "How are you going to help? You're as light as a kitten." She pouted, but inside, her heart felt strangely warm. By nearly 11 a.m., the walkway had taken shape. Red bricks created a soft, curved line from the gate to the house. White stones covered the gaps, shimmering under the sun. The soil on both sides was leveled, ready for planting flowers. Standing side by side, Hoai asked, "Looks good, right?" Tiểu San nodded, her voice soft but sincere. "Much better than I imagined," Hoai replied. "That's because we built it together." They stood quietly, not saying anything else, just looking at the path they had created with their own hands. In that moment, both of them felt something gentle but deep, like a small home was quietly taking shape. After finishing the walkway, Tiểu San stood there for a long time, admiring the curved line of red bricks and the neat rows of white stones. The morning's effort made her heart feel lighter, as if she had just added a new corner to her home, and perhaps to herself. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and headed inside to prepare lunch. The moment she opened the kitchen door, a breeze swept in carrying the smell of fresh soil, new materials, and the faint ringing of tools from the yard. Somehow, that scent alone made her smile, a smile full of emotion, as if she sensed that today wasn't like any other day. She began washing the fresh vegetables from the garden. Her hands were busy, but her eyes kept drifting to the yard through the small window. Outside, Hai was still focused on perfecting the edges of the walkway. His posture was steady, every movement filled with sincerity and care. Sometimes he bent down to measure, sometimes he stood up to catch his breath before continuing. Watching him, she felt something tender and warm inside. She couldn't help smiling to herself as happiness spread softly in her chest. Lunch today was simple but thoughtful. She fried the eggs her neighbor had brought over that morning, golden yolks releasing a fragrant aroma with every stir of the pan. She grilled eggplants and topped them with scallion oil, the scent filling the kitchen. The pot of red amaranth soup simmered gently, its colors bright and inviting. Everything was simple, homely, the kind of warmth she cherished. When she peeked outside one last time and saw Hai still working, she called out, "Hai oi, take a break and come eat. I've finished cooking." Her voice carried a natural warmth, so natural that it startled even her. That sweetness wasn't forced, it simply appeared because she was calling someone who was slowly becoming important to her. Hearing her, Hai looked up, dusted off his shirt and hands, and walked toward the house. As soon as he reached the kitchen door, the aroma hit him and he chuckled. "Oh wow, smells amazing. I just walked in and my stomach already wants to rebel." Tiểu San blushed. "It's just a few simple dishes." She pulled out a chair for him, and they started their cozy meal. Hot fried eggs, soft eggplants with scallion oil, and cool red amaranth soup, all placed on an old wooden table that suddenly felt like a warm family dining space. While eating, Hai spoke slowly, as if he had kept this in his heart for a long time. "When I worked overseas, what I missed most wasn't anything fancy. I missed home-cooked food. Missed it so much that just smelling fish sauce made me want to fly back to Vietnam." He looked at his bowl as he continued, voice trembling slightly. "Over there, alone in a cold, unfamiliar room, I ate quick meals just to get by. Sometimes I ate sandwiches for a whole week. It got so bad I wanted to quit everything. Every day I told myself, endure a little longer so I could come home and eat my mom's cooking again." Then he looked up at Tiểu San, his eyes filled with something warm and grateful. "Eating this today suddenly feels a lot like eating at home." That gentle sentence made Tiểu San's heart melt. She lowered her head, smiling softly. "If you like it, I can cook another pot of soup later. You can take it home for dinner, to ease that homesickness." Hai looked at her, and his eyes seemed to shine, warmer than the entire morning sun outside. After finishing the meal, Tiểu San stood up to clean the table, but her heart was still warmed by the way Hai had talked about his time living alone abroad. She washed the last pair of chopsticks, dried her hands, then went into the small room and opened the old wooden cabinet. Her movement was gentle, but the moment the door opened, the sweet scent of ripe persimmons drifted out, soft and honey-like. In the light streaming in from the window, the golden persimmons in the box looked like glowing gems. She carried the box of persimmons out and set it on the table. As soon as Hai saw it, he raised his eyebrows in delight. "Heavens, just looking at them makes me want to eat already," he said, his voice full of genuine surprise. Inside the box, the persimmons were plump and round, their skins glossy, releasing a delicate fragrance that blended with the cool air in the small kitchen. Gently, Tiểu San chose the prettiest one, lifting it with all the care in her hands. I've let these soften for 2 days already. They're all evenly ripe now. Try it and see if it's good. Hai took the persimmon and took a small bite. Immediately, his eyes widened. Wow, that's so sweet. Soft and fragrant. These really came from your own trees? Tieu San nodded, lips curving in a proud smile. Yes, from the 3 trees in the back garden. This year they're bearing a lot of fruit. She picked a few more, put them on a plate, and placed the plate of persimmons in the middle of the table. Just as she was about to cover the box again, she suddenly remembered something and said softly, "Oh, when you go home this afternoon, remember to bring some for your mom. She likes ripe persimmons. I remember you told me before." That simple sentence made Hai freeze for a few seconds. He looked at her, and his gaze softened. She didn't just care about him, she remembered what his mother liked as well, and that touched something deep inside him. Before he could say anything, Tieu San had already opened a woven bamboo basket beside her and taken out a bunch of ripe bananas, each one full and golden, their mild fragrance filling the kitchen. "These bananas I cut this morning. They ripened on the tree, so they're really sweet. Try one." Hai grabbed a banana and peeled it. As soon as he took a bite, he burst out laughing. "Wow, even the bananas are good. You really have a gift for growing things. Your persimmons are good, your bananas are good. Everything you grow turns out sweet." Tieu San let out a small laugh, her cheeks slightly flushed. She didn't know if it was from the sun, his compliment, or the way he was looking at her. They brought the plate of fruit out to the porch. Sitting down on the old wooden bench, they ate while looking at the little path they had spent all morning working on. The red brick walkway stood out under the sunlight, and the white stones shimmered like a road leading into a dream garden. The wind brushed past the roof tiles, the leaves rustled against each other, creating a gentle, peaceful atmosphere. Leaning back slightly against the bench, eyes on the path, Hai spoke in a quiet but resolute voice. "I'm staying this afternoon. You and I will pull out all the weeds in the back garden. Then once we're done and you've changed clothes, I'll take you to buy plants and flowers. I want to make you a really beautiful garden, so every morning when you wake up, you'll feel happy." Tieu San turned to look at him, her eyes wide with surprise. Not because of the promise, but because of his tone, so sincere it was almost impossible to describe. "What kind of plants do you want to grow?" she asked softly, half testing him, half genuinely curious. Hai chuckled and shook his head. "What I want doesn't matter. What matters is what you like. Tell me everything." Tieu San bowed her head slightly in thought, then began to list them. She liked bougainvillea in many colors, especially bright lotus pink. She wanted white jasmine so that passing through the yard at night would feel soothing. She wanted some vibrant moss roses, a few hanging strawberry baskets for Ivy to pick from, and in the far corner of the yard, she'd love to grow basil, perilla, and sweet basil for daily cooking. Hai nodded at every word, his eyes growing brighter and brighter like a child listening to a fairy tale. "All right. This afternoon we'll buy them all. This garden, you and I are going to turn it into the most beautiful spot in the house." Tieu San laughed out loud, a kind of laughter she rarely let herself show, light as the breeze, yet strangely radiant. In that moment, there was only one feeling in her heart, gratitude. They sat side by side under the gentle late noon sun, eating pieces of persimmon and banana, admiring the fruits of their morning's work, and getting excited about their plans for the afternoon. It was such a simple scene, yet so warm, as if in this little courtyard, something was quietly sprouting, and both of them were silently waiting for it to grow day by day. That afternoon, the sunlight softened, and a cool breeze slipped through the leaves, making the back garden feel like it could finally breathe. Together, Hai and Tieu San brought out the tools and started tidying up the remaining patch of soil. As they worked, they talked animatedly: pink bougainvillea near the gate, purple bougainvillea in the left corner, hanging strawberry baskets along the fence, and the vegetable beds laid out on the wide strip of soil next to the kitchen. The atmosphere was lively and warm, as if there were no more distance or awkwardness between them. Every time Hai bent down to pull out weeds, Tieu San would gather the dry branches. Whenever she grew tired, Hai would say, "Take a break, I'll finish this." But she just smiled and kept helping him, gently but diligently, and with just one glance he could tell she was trying her best for this home. But that joy didn't last long. The slapping sound of footsteps and slippers came from the front yard, a sound very familiar, yet one that always made her heart sink. Tieu San froze on the spot. She straightened up and turned toward the sound. And when she saw the woman standing at the gate, her smile went out in an instant, like a flame being snuffed. It was her foster mother. The woman who had raised her, but also the one who had pushed her into that dark, loveless marriage. The one who, for money, had forced her to abandon her dreams and marry a man she never loved. The one who had hurt her so deeply she no longer knew how to trust anyone. Today, that woman came again, still with that mixture of frailty and calculation that Tieu San had always seen through. When Hai noticed the color drain from Tieu San's face, he immediately stood up and walked closer to her, as if to shield her simply by being there. Tieu San's foster mother stepped forward, wearing a smile that Tieu San hadn't wanted to see for years. "San, I came to visit you and little Ivy. I miss you both so much." Tieu San didn't answer right away. She took a quiet breath, trying to stay calm, then spoke. "Hello, Mom. But, why are you here today?" Her voice was no longer as sweet as when she spoke to Hai. It was weary now, edged with fatigue and a touch of coldness. The woman sighed and wiped the corner of her eyes, as if she were suffering greatly. "San, I have nowhere else to go. The house is a mess, business has failed, and no one will take me in. I just want to ask if you could let me stay here for a few days. I regret it all, I was wrong. Please give me another chance." Tieu San didn't respond immediately. In her mind, memories came rushing back: the night she cried until she couldn't breathe as she was forced to sign the marriage papers, the day she begged to continue studying but her foster mother scolded her, saying, "What's the point of raising you if you don't bring anything back?" The day she was left alone in a strange house without a single word of comfort. Those wounds weren't things she could forget just because someone said, "I regret it." She gently shook her head, though her gaze was firm. "Please go stay with Hung, Mom. He's your biological son, and his house is big. You'll be better off there." At the mention of Hung, her foster mother's eyes darkened. But just a second later, she changed her tone and pleaded. "Hung's always out, dear. I'm so lonely. It's so miserable being alone. Just let me stay for a few days, I promise I won't bother you." Even then, Tieu San kept her calm expression, though her voice trembled slightly. "I'm sorry, but I can't." The gentle refusal cut straight into the woman's pride. The pitiful expression vanished, replaced by a pent-up anger. "Fine. So you don't need me anymore, is that it? If I hadn't looked down on that poor boy Hai back then, he never would have tried so hard and become who he is today. I'm the one who pushed him to change. And now you two are happy together, and I don't get anything out of it?" Hai clenched his fists. His eyes sharpened, but he stayed silent. He didn't want to interfere in her family matters, yet he couldn't walk away and leave her to face this alone. Tieu San, on the other hand, stood frozen for a few seconds. Those words stabbed right into old wounds. She didn't react. She just turned her face away. She didn't want to argue, and she didn't want to relive the pain. Seeing that Tieu San wouldn't answer, her foster mother pressed her lips together, gave an angry huff, then turned and walked off. The slap of her slippers on the brick path sounded heavy and bitter. When her figure finally disappeared behind the fence, Tieu San was still standing there, her hands clenched but trembling slightly. Slowly, Hai stepped closer and gently rested a hand on her shoulder. "San, don't be afraid. I'm here. If your mother gives you a hard time, I'll step in. I won't let anyone hurt you again." His voice was low and steady, like a vow. Tieu San lowered her head, her eyes red but without tears. She simply nodded, as if leaning on the strength he was offering her. The afternoon light turned the garden golden. The new path still smelled faintly of clay bricks, and the moss roses were just starting to bud under the slanting sun. Even though her foster mother's visit had shaken her, Hai's presence, right there beside her, ready to protect her, made her feel like she was no longer alone. And she knew, this was only the beginning of many storms to come. But at least now, Hai was here. And that, more than anything else, allowed her heart to feel just a little more at peace. That night, after cleaning the house and taking a shower, Tieu San sat alone at the edge of her bed. The warm yellow light cast a soft glow, making the small room feel strangely peaceful. But inside her heart, there was no peace at all. She rested her chin on her hand, staring out the window where the night breeze rustled through the leaves outside. The worry about her foster mother kept circling in her mind, like a thread refusing to loosen. Tieu San knew very well that her foster mother was greedy, selfish, and had done many things that hurt her deeply. But still, she was the woman who raised her. Even if she was an imperfect mother, a calculating mother, somewhere deep down, Tieu San had once longed to be loved by her sincerely. She whispered to herself, "If things had been different, maybe I would have had a real family." But life wasn't as simple as she once hoped. The wounds were too deep for forgiveness to be something easy. One part of her wanted to push her foster mother far away so she wouldn't get hurt again. But another part of her softened, because she was still that little girl who once wished for a real hug from her mother. While she sat there sighing, the phone on her desk vibrated lightly. She picked it up, a message from Hai. It was only a few short lines, but it made her heart melt. "San, I know today made you sad. Don't think too much. You've already suffered enough. From now on, I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you again. Sleep early. Tomorrow I'll come help you plant the garden. Everything will be all right." She read each word slowly. Every line made her heart warmer, lighter, calmer. Tieu San placed her hand gently on the screen and smiled. She didn't need fancy words, just this sincerity, this presence, and that was enough for her. She replied with a short message, yet full of emotion she didn't even realize she was expressing. "Thank you. I'll try to sleep early. See you tomorrow." Placing her phone down, she let out a quiet breath. She still had worries in her heart, but Hai's words felt like a comforting shoulder she could finally lean on. Closing her eyes softly, she whispered to herself, "Mom, I hope this time you really change. I'll try to let go of the past, at least once." Outside, the night wind rustled through the yard. Inside, her heart slowly calmed. Tomorrow, there was still a garden to plant, a new path to finish, and someone waiting for her, ready to walk beside her. With that small spark of hope, Tieu San smiled gently and told herself, "I hope tomorrow will be a better day."
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video hôm nay của mình. Chúc mọi người có một ngày làm việc thật hiệu quả và tràn ngập niềm vui. Hy vọng rằng những video của mình sẽ mang đến một phần vui nhỏ cho mọi người trong cuộc sống. Câu chuyện hôm nay của mình kể về người mẹ đơn thân Lý Tiểu San. Và hôm nay Tiểu San cùng Hải cải tạo lại sân vườn của mình. Một hành động và một việc làm rất đơn giản nhưng khiến cả hai đều hạnh phúc. Và sự xuất hiện không ngờ tới của người mẹ nuôi Tiểu San đã khiến cô phải suy nghĩ và đau đầu liệu rằng mẹ Tiểu San sẽ làm gì và sự xuất hiện của bà có ý đồ gì hay không, thì mời mọi người cùng đón xem ở video tiếp theo nha. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay của mình. Hy vọng rằng sẽ gặp lại mọi người ở video lần sau. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nha.